So you've taken the plunge to start singing, and you're realizing it's probably not as easy as you thought it would be. I would be willing to bet you're making one of these 5 newbie singer mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're starting to practice is they are singing at the wrong volume. So this could go in both directions, either singing too loud or singing too softly. So let's start with singing too loud. First of all, the penchant to sing too loud really is going to depend on what kind of music you typically listen to. So if you're listening to rock, soul, funk, R&B, gospel, these are musics that are electrified, and so typically they're sung at high volumes. And so if you're singing at that volume and you're not ready for that volume, you run the risk of making your voice tired, hurting yourself, but certainly you're not going to develop any sort of control in your voice. So how do you know if you're singing too loud? Your voice feels scratchy while you're singing. You get tired after just a few minutes of singing. Let's say you feel like you want to cough. You start losing control over your voice. You lose your vibrato if you have one. You're flat, out of tune. All of these things are very, very clear indicators that you might be singing too loud. We can compare somewhat singing to lifting weights. We all know that if we start lifting weights in the gym, we're not going to go for the heaviest weights in the gym. We're probably going to pick something that's moderately heavy, something heavy enough that feels like a challenge, but not so much that you lose your form, because we know that proper form is important not only to not hurting ourselves, but to developing the right muscle groups. So the same thing is with singing. You want what we would call a moderate challenge where you can feel like things are working. Yes, I said you feel like things are working. I didn't say hurt, but you feel like things are working, but not so loud that you can't control your voice. Now, some other people might go the opposite direction, and this is kind of dependent on, again, what you listen to, but it also might depend on your family culture. If you come from a culture where speaking loudly is not acceptable, or perhaps somebody told you as a kid, "Oh, you talk too loud, you sing too loud, shut up," then you might tend to sing less loud than you need in order to make progress. So if we go back to our example about weights, if I decide I want to build my arms and I take 2 iPhones and I start doing this, well, I could do that for 20 years. I'm not going to build any significant muscle because it's not enough of a challenge. I probably would get carpal tunnels before I would make any sort of muscle gain. So again, what we want to do is we want to challenge the muscle groups enough so that we can feel that they're working, but not so much so that we're taxing them and then they can't do their job. Number 2 is a stickler of mine, because I've had students do this and it drives me nuts, is not listening to your recordings. If you are taking lessons with a teacher, you should be recording all of your lessons so that you can get the full benefit. Trust me, you cannot remember everything that went on in that lesson, but also you simply don't hear yourself in real time the way somebody else hears you. I actually had a student, I think I wanted to kill him, but the student was very upset that they weren't making any progress. And so I went through my normal list of questions and I said, well, do you listen to your lessons? Because this particular person did very well in class. In fact, every exercise I gave them, they were able to correct the things I needed them to correct, and they got the things rather quickly. However, because they didn't practice between lessons and they were coming bi-weekly, they didn't remember things. And so they never developed that muscle memory that we were getting in class. It just never happened, and it'll never become a part of their singing. So number 3 would be not practicing regularly or not at all. I cannot tell you how many students I've had that actually thought that just going to regular voice lessons would do the trick, as if there was some sort of magic wand that I had or any of their teachers had that would fix anything in one session. If that were the case, I can assure you voice lessons would be a lot more expensive. But it is not the case. It doesn't matter how talented you are, and it doesn't matter how good your teacher is. You are required to go home, listen to your lessons, and then practice according to the plan that was given on your lesson. That means practicing a little bit every day. In order for this new way of singing to become a part of the way you actually sing, you have to do it regularly. Because the whole idea is that you build this muscle memory so that you don't actually have to think about it. Just when you open your mouth, it comes out the way you intended it to. And so in order to do that, you actually have to practice. So I'm actually going to do another video about how to practice, but let's just say you need to practice several times a week. Number 4 is not actually believing that you can sing better or make progress. Now, how would that get in the way? Let's say you are practicing regularly, you're taking the lessons, you're actually listening to your recordings, but in the back of your mind, you feel like, I can't do this. I'll never be the singer I want to be. I can tell you that even if in class and in practice, you're doing the right things with your voice, once you get up to sing, the thought behind everything that you do is actually what's going to control what happens here. So what does that mean? Yes, the power of positive thinking. Again, I know that sounds really woo-woo, but the truth is, what you think matters. If you think you can, eventually with the right practice and the right work and the right teacher, you will be able to. But if you think you can't, that will actually short circuit all the hard work that you do. Number 5 is a weird one because it entails too much information. What do I mean by that? Well, you're on my channel watching this because you probably searched something about singing. Just way too much information for the newer singer to figure out what they actually need. You know, there's so much out there. Some of the information's good, some of it's just downright false and bad and can be harmful for you. But what's most important is learning how to sift through all of that, knowing what to leave and knowing what to take. Understanding that there is a difference between entertainment and education. Trust your teacher first. Let them do their job. Let them decide what is the thing that you should be focusing on in your practice. Because, you know, you'll see a lot of different videos on YouTube showing really cool tips and tricks and maybe how to do whistle tones or vocal fry. But if that is not a part of what your teacher is trying to develop in your voice, you might actually derail your vocal progress. You're going to slow things down or even stop the progress if that's not what you need right now. Watch the videos. I'm not telling you not to watch the videos. I couldn't tell you not to watch the videos, but take it with a grain of salt. And if you have any questions about what you see in the video as it pertains to your own singing, go ahead and take that video into your teacher. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to explain what happened in the video and if you perhaps need some of that information or not. That's it. Now, what I'd like to know is, what of these 5 things that I mentioned today have you been doing that might have been slowing down your vocal progress? I find that students make, if you don't practice hard, loud enough, then you're not going to be getting anything done. You're not going to, there's no way you're working your muscles the right way. All right, let's step that out with it. Your recording, so here's another one, number 3, number